Hey guys, so before I get into the main content of this video, I want to make an announcement. Starting June 9th and ending August 4th, I'm going to be out of town, and part of that time, I'm going to have some days where I'm on my own and have complete free time. Not 100% sure what times those are going to be, but during those times, I will have some time to do a live stream if I can set that up, or a Skype chat, Google Hangout, things like that, because I'll basically be living on my own, which will be exciting, and I won't really have anything to do. But there are other days that I'll be busy, so again, it will depend. That will be starting July 10th and going to July 22nd, I think. That's about the range. So if any of you guys are planning on doing live streams during that time, or want to chat with me, that would be the perfect time to do it. Again, I'm not 100% sure on the schedule, but we can talk about it. Now, one of those conversations is probably going to be with Ash Hardell, so keep that in mind. That is already booked, and I'm probably going to limit myself to one conversation a day, because there's no way I can do multiple unless it's like people together in one hangout or one live stream or whatever. So keep those two things in mind. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to me about it. Now, as you can imagine, just because I want to be able to talk with you guys, and because it's going to be like I'm going to be busy, it's a summer camp, so it's going to be like I'm going to be busy one day, and then I'm going to be talking with you guys another day or something like that. I'm probably not going to have that much time to make videos in between, and then the next 2 weeks after that, I'm going to be hanging out with the extended family, so I'm not going to have much time to make videos then, and I'm probably also going to be not having much to talk with you guys. So I would really appreciate it if some of you guys made guest videos or something else like that in the meantime. So if any of you guys have guest videos or anything else that you can do on my channel, I would really appreciate that. Please send that to me. I know I should have probably announced this earlier, so sorry for not doing that. Please feel free to send me these videos, and I will do my best to upload them during the time I'm gone, because I'll still have access to my computer. I just probably won't have a lot of time to make videos. I will try my best to do it in the meantime when I'm gone. Like I said, I'll be gone from July 9th to August 4th. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. This is going to be not Dennis Prager himself. Some of the videos will involve him, the ones from PragerU, but they have guests on a lot of time. This is from a guest talking about why the right wing, all of the right wing, by the way, and this is weird because the right wing, it's such a diverse political wing, just like the left wing, and of course there's a center, all of that. The right wing could mean anyone. It could be like very far right people. It could mean fascists. It could mean ANCAPs. It could mean more center right people. It could mean more traditional conservatives. It could mean evangelical Christians. It could mean fundamentalist Muslims. It could mean Christians who are more right-wing but who are not fundamentalists. It could mean moderate Muslims, or Orthodox Jews, moderate Jews, non-religious right-wing people. It could mean, like, literally anyone who just happens to be right-leaning. It's so many people with varying opinions, and I'm not right-leaning myself, but I know that the political right is not a monolith, and yet this guy is going to argue, literally, that the right wing is objectively right. I can't. Just the idiocy. So, let's just get into the video.
Why are you right? Yes, you, conservative person. Can you answer that question?
Well, I'm not conservative, but I would assume that a conservative watching this would say, well, I'm right because I happen to think I'm right, because I happen to hold the opinions. And, by the way, I'm sure conservatives disagree on their own opinions. I don't think all conservatives hold the same positions. Conservatives are not a monolith. I mean, like I said, the right is not a monolith, but I'm sure not all right-wingers consider themselves conservatives, but even among conservatives, I'm sure there's plenty of disagreement. Even so, there's no such thing as objective political stance. The whole point of politics is largely subjective.
I think it's so important that I wrote a book about it. How to be right. The art of being persuasively correct.
Okay, two things. If it's so important that you think that your political stance, which happens to be conservatism, you wrote a book about it, you have mental problems. And then you wrote The Art of Being Persuasively Correct. Okay, the art of persuasion for literally anything, not just being on the political right. And again, being on the political right does not just mean being conservative. It's literally anything right of center.
Because if you can't be persuasive about why you are right, then we, the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, are lost.
What? You just went from 0 to 100. So if the right wing cannot win its arguments, then the entire United States of America fails. Why? And you could argue this for literally any other ideology. It is just based on your opinion. Like, I happen to be left-leaning myself, but I acknowledge that that's just my opinion. That's just how I think the world should run. Now, I could back it up with my own arguments for why I think I should run. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. If you're so retarded that you think you're objectively right, then you're an ideologue. And I think that's what this person is. I think he's just an ideologue. And that's a sad way to live life. And you act just like the SJWs, who I go after all the time. You're just another ideologue.
So here's the simple answer to why you are right. It is a more practical, generous, and compassionate way to live. Let me explain. There have been a bunch of academic studies on how those on the left and right approach problems. They pretty much all come to the same conclusion. The right tends to be risk-averse, more concerned about external threats, like tyranny and terror. Conservatives, get this, tend to be conservative. They are less likely to play with fire in just about every sense, financially, artistically, sexually. They are cautious about changing traditions, sometimes to a fault.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to see these studies, because when you try to put science into people's political positions, I would be just skeptical about that, especially when he's claiming that it supports the right wing. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that, but even pushing that aside, he says conservatives tend to be conservative in every field of life. Okay, I, again, would be skeptical about that, just because even though I'm not conservative politically, I am conservative in many fields of life, because I'm very cautious and anxious as a person, and so I tend to take things very slowly. I don't jump into risks. But yet I'm not conservative politically. So I know that's just anecdotal, but I know plenty of people, it's just called being neurotic, basically. What he's describing is a neurotic personality type, and that is completely independent of politics. So I don't really know where he's getting this from.
Which is why they cling to that crazy constitution they like so much, and to their guns and their religion.
Okay, first of all, not all conservative people are necessarily religious. I'm sure there are plenty of conservative atheists out there. Yes, conservative people do tend to be more religious, and vice versa. But he's acting like it's completely connected. It's not necessarily. Second of all, he talked about the conservatives supporting the Constitution. Okay, yes, conservatives do bring up the Constitution a lot, or at least these conservatives do. These ideologues. But conservatives don't 100% support every facet of the Constitution. For example, if you're a conservative and, for example, you're against, I don't know, cutting taxes on the rich, and you recognize that the Constitution is a fluid-moving document, and say there's a new amendment passed that says, like, you can't cut taxes on the rich to a certain degree, would you then support it? And then with the guns, okay, I can see where it's getting there. A lot of conservatives are pro-gun, but you don't necessarily have to be conservative to be pro-gun. And I'm sure there are conservatives who are moderates on the gun issue or something like that, but it's true that pro-gun is like a conservative stance a lot of the time. And then finally, the religion thing, this is just like, I know this was a metaphorical thing with religion, but not all religious conservatives are necessarily Christian. There are plenty of Muslim and Jewish conservatives. Just saying, it's funny how these people forget that Islam is a very conservative ideology. Funny how they conveniently leave that out. But again, I'm not generalizing all conservatives here. It's just these ideologues.
We conservatives also focus on what we can fix and accept what we cannot, which is one of the many reasons we're not obsessed over global warming.
Okay, but we can fix global warming. It's gonna take a long time, but we can fix it. It may not be in the instant future what we can do right now. I mean, I guess there are some things we can do right now, but I get that's a long-term solution. But we can fix it. And the stuff we can do to fix it does start right now. We have to start making an effort on a large scale. So the fact saying like, oh, we can't do it right now, so we shouldn't do anything. I mean, I'm glad you actually acknowledge that global warming exists, because some other guests that Dennis Prager has do not acknowledge that it exists. Yeah. But I'm glad he does acknowledge that it exists. But the way that he portrays it, like we can't do anything to fix it, is just inaccurate.
With radical Islam, we know what the threat is, and that it's a lot worse than a few missing polar bears. I know that makes me sound mean. Sorry, polar bears.
Alright, well, global warming is a way bigger threat than just a few missing polar bears. There's water levels rising, droughts, and floods. The weather patterns are changing. So, at least though I'm glad that he acknowledges that global warming exists, he's definitely minimizing the effects of it. And I get his terrorism thing, yes, that is a genuine threat, but he's acting like, oh yeah, terrorism is definitely much more important than global warming. No, why can't we just address both? He's putting them like, oh, one is an issue on the left, and one is an issue on the right. No, how about, like, they're both issues that we can address? And just a side note on the whole global warming thing, I hate how it's a left versus right issue. Because I think that's one of the things that shouldn't be a left versus right issue. Because it's science. There is science backing up that global warming is a real thing. And that there are things that we can take action against it. And not just talking about, like, change your light bulbs or whatever, like, major things on a national and international scale. I'm sick of it being polarized as a political debate. No, it's just a scientific phenomenon.
Liberals, the research tells us, are generally more outgoing, more likely to try new stuff. They're open to new ideas, though not school choice or flat taxes or a market-based healthcare reform.
He's painting liberals in a bad light. Not surprising. And he's not going into the arguments against these things. And there are legitimate arguments for and against those things that he just outlined. Plus, we already have market-based healthcare in a lot of ways. We have health insurance companies, so I don't know what he's talking about. And also that he's saying that liberals tend to be more outgoing. Again, he's just talking about personality types. He's talking about extroverts. He's talking about introverts and extroverts. That has nothing to do with your political opinion. Where is he even getting this from? These studies, I want to see these studies. What is he even talking about?
And are less likely to feel threatened by unfamiliar things. This is why, in general, they seem to have more fun. They're more likely to try drugs, for example, which is fine as long as they don't end up throwing up in my toaster.
Sure, there are plenty of conservatives that would end up throwing up in your toaster. It depends on their personality, not their political leanings. Are you this much of an ideologue, or are you this insane?
In short, liberals are pretty liberal. They feel free to take risks that the risk-averse usually end up paying for over and over. Which explains the necessity for conservatism. We are the cleanup crew.
Oh yeah, all those liberals, they're just messing up everything, you know. All those conservatives gotta clean them up. He's so narcissistic about his own political side. And again, he's generalizing all liberals and all conservatives. And he seems to ignore, because he's saying the words liberals and conservatives and right and left. And he seems to not understand that they're not the same thing. Right just means anyone right of center. Conservative means somebody who's right-leaning economically but socially conservative. Liberal tends to mean somebody, or at least with the current definition, means somebody who's left-leaning economically but socially liberal. He's conflating the terms and using entire political sides. He's just conflating everything and making liberals look bad and conservatives look good and being so tribalistic. He's so dishonest. But it's just funny to see how much of an ideologue is. And this is basically the new identity politics. I mean, I'm sure it's not new. People have used this argument on both sides for a long time. But this is what he's pushing. It's basically how, you know how SJWs group everybody, like, you're a white man, so you're bad. And I'm a trans, black, lesbian, so I'm good. Well, he's saying, well, I'm a conservative, so I'm good. And you're a liberal, so you're bad. It's identity politics. That's what it is. It's identity politics. And it's funny how he probably makes fun of SJWs for identity politics. Because that's exactly what you're doing. It's identity politics. He's saying he's objectively right. He's saying he's better than people because of what political thing he has. Dude, nobody cares about your politics.
Liberals may seem to have more fun, and many do, but according to polls, they aren't as happy as conservatives.
Citation needed. I want to see these polls.
And with all the fun they're having, I've never quite figured out why the angriest people I've encountered in my life have been liberals.
Okay, that's anecdotal evidence. I'm sure there are plenty of pissed off conservatives. I mean, just look at the people who interrupted a play because it hurt their fifis.
Maybe it's because short-term fun doesn't translate into long-term happiness. Marriage, families, and religion do that.
Okay, yes, conservatives do value family values and all of that. As for the whole religion thing, okay, I completely respect if you want to be religious, and that is your choice, and you exercise it in a healthy way, and you're not an ideologue about it, you're not shoving it in everyone's throat. That's your choice. But religion can also be dangerous, and it can also suck people in. So acting like, oh, religion is a good thing, and it leads to long-term happiness. No, it can also indoctrinate people. So yeah, you left that part out. And it's funny how you just put Judaism and Christianity next to those people, said nothing about Islam. I guess you forgot that Islam is also conservative, and there were plenty of Muslim conservatives, because Islam is also a conservative religion that happens to be bad. And you also talked about Islamic terrorism. Like, these people cannot connect in their minds. Yes, Islam is a bad religion that causes lots of bad things, like terrorism. But they also forget that it is also a form of conservatism, too. Why do they just conveniently forget that?
And those are the things conservatives most value. Liberals tend to live for now, conservatives for later.
No, you're talking about personality. This has nothing to do with politics. The fact that you're ascertaining somebody's personality from their politics is exactly what SJWs do with their identity politics. SJWs are the kind of people who ascertain your personality based off of your skin color, or your genitals, or your sexual orientation. You're doing the exact same thing with people's political leanings. Stop acting like your opposition.
A risk-averse conservative is more likely to save money. He is more likely to protect his investments. He is more likely to protect property and advocate for rule of law and preservation of individual protections.
Risk-averse conservative. I think you're talking about risk-averse people.
And he offers no excuses for looting. Instead, he empathizes with the Asian, Arab, and black small businessman.
Oh, this is hilarious. The risk-averse conservative emphasizes with the Asians and the Arabs and the blacks. Just gotta love the pandering to minorities right there. That sounds exactly like the virtue signaling SJWs. This is literally no better than SJWs. I love all the black people and the Muslims and the Asians.
Whose convenience store, laundry, or restaurant goes up in flames during the riot that liberals reflexively endorse as an understandable response to injustice.
Oh yep, all them liberals starting riots. Gotta generalize all liberals.
Of course, conservatives aren't risk-averse in everything, but they take risks with their own lives.
All the brave conservatives risking their lives for stuff. Meanwhile, them liberals, they're just pussies. No, they would never risk their lives for something. What is this even turning into? This guy is such an idiot. He's so pompous and arrogant. What an ideologue. I'm sorry to all of my conservative viewers. This guy makes you look so bad.
Not with the society. Conservatives risk all to build businesses. That risk, however, is rooted in a fact-based belief, not faith, in the free market.
Okay, yes, conservatives do believe in the free market. So do, by the way, libertarians, who you fail to bring up because they don't share your social values, and they conveniently are not a part of your narrative, because they would probably act like the liberals on social issues, but whatever. What does their economic leanings have to do with their personality again? Oh, that's right, nothing.
If people want the product or service you're supplying at the price you're asking, you will succeed and the risk will pay off. Over time, it's conservative risk-taking that creates a civilization by building families, businesses, and nations, all of which creates more wealth, wealth that can then be used to help those in need. You need money to make money, but you also need money to give money. Conservatism makes what liberalism takes.
Conservatism makes what liberalism takes. Oh my god. Now he's trying to make up cringy slogans. I can't. Oh my god. This video is almost over. Relax. So he's trying to push his free market ideology, and you can argue for the free market ideology all you want. I'm personally like for a mix of free market economics and for social programs. Like a reasonable mix of capitalism and socialism, basically. And I'm not going to argue for that here because I don't believe in pushing your economic or social ideologies dishonestly. I believe in actually trying to use evidence to back them up. And that is not what he is doing here. He's saying like, oh, you know, you can make money and you can donate to charity. And that's a reasonable argument. If he wanted to make that argument in a different context, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But the fact is, he's trying to push it in this dishonest way so that he can push his argument forward while putting down liberalism at the same time, and that's just like a really dishonest tactic.
So, for example, for liberals to get their minimum wage hike, first we need conservatives to build businesses, to think like businessmen, to sacrifice their own salaries in order to pay others.
Oh, the poor conservatives, they're the victims, they're gonna have to suffer. Oh my god, like there are not any liberal business people. Come on, there are plenty of liberal business people. So you're acting like the minimum wage hike is gonna be like some huge jump. And it's true that, like, for example, even though my economic stance is similar to that of Bernie Sanders, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders and everything. I don't agree, like, immediately going to a $15 national minimum wage. I don't think that's even reasonable, considering some places that's too high, some places that's too low. But it wouldn't be like an immediate jump, or at least I don't think it should be that way. It would be gradual, obviously. Like, he's thinking it's like some jump immediately. And of course, only the conservatives would suffer if that happened, obviously. What kind of delusion is this guy going through? He's like thinking of some dystopia where only the conservatives are persecuted. This is something I've wanted to talk about for ages. Like, everyone thinks they're persecuted for these days. Literally everyone. Oh my god, I'm a conservative, and I'm persecuted because the media is mostly liberal, and, you know, SJW ideas are really popular. No, but you're not persecuted. You're not persecuted. SJWs, yes, they are popular, and yes, the media is very SJW-y, but that does not make you persecuted. Are we in the Holocaust right now? Are you actually being persecuted? No. Shut up. Well, don't actually shut up. You have your freedom of speech, you know what I mean? Same thing on the other side. Oh my god, I'm persecuted because I identify as some weird gender amalgamation and because Donald Trump is president and all that. No, you're not persecuted. You're not literally being persecuted. Shut up. I just hate with this constant persecution complex on both sides. It's ridiculous. And it's coming from everyone. It's just shut up. But, yeah, moving on.
To sleep on floors, if necessary, in order to break even.
My god, they're gonna have to sleep on floors. This guy is going from 0 to 100. He thinks for one policy that is supposed to make things better for everyone. For poor people, and this guy talks about, like, oh, you know, we care about the blacks and the Jews and the poor. This guy who just virtue signaled about how much he wants to help people. Well, guess what? The minimum wage is supposed to make it a living wage and help people who can't survive off the minimum wage. That's the intended goal, and you can disagree with me all that you want. Now he's like, oh, the poor conservatives, they're gonna have to suffer. Oh my god. Which, by the way, where's his evidence for that? But again, he just went from 0 to 100 so quick. Oh my god. I can't stand this guy.
Then, when they make a profit, and things are going great, when the calm sets in.
When they make a profit, that's not the goal of raising the minimum wage, you idiot! It's not for liberals to make a profit. Do you honestly think that all the minimum wage workers are liberals? You do realize that a lot of red states are, like, the low-income states, like, especially the southern states. Does he not realize this?
Liberalism can appear and say, how dare you not pay these people a living wage? Once the tables are full of diners and bills are being paid, and you're thinking about opening a second joint, liberalism arrives to demand its cut. Think of it as a protection racket, sort of like the Gambino family, but without loyalty, job prospects, and tracksuits. In short, conservatism doesn't compete with liberalism, it sustains it. Without conservatism, there is no liberalism.
How did he even arrive to that conclusion? The mental gymnastics. I honestly did not see that coming. What? What you say, what you say, what you say, what? I literally... How? How does that even make any sense? So he's like, you guys better be proud of us conservatives, because you guys wouldn't even be here politically if it weren't for us. No. I mean, yes, I guess there are some people who became liberal because they were raised in conservative families and decided that wasn't for them, and so they went over to the other side and vice versa. But that's generally a rare occasion. Normally it's because people were raised in those sort of families and they ended up having those sorts of beliefs. And there are other situations. But I don't even know what he's getting at. What is he even talking about? I don't even understand his argument. What?
And so when a liberal asks you, why are you a conservative? Simply say, so that you can be a liberal.
just imagine that conversation going on. And the only, at least if it's like a reasonable person, like I'm sure there are plenty of situations which when SJW goes up to conservative, it's like, why are you a conservative, shit lord? Like, yeah, I'm sure that happens. But if it's like a reasonable person, like, hey, you know, you have a different opinion than me. I just want to know, you know, I have a different opinion than you, but why are you conservative? Why do you believe like you do? I can just imagine like some edgetard, probably Hunter Avalone, some edgetard like, oh, so you can be a liberal. Gotcha. Like, that's such a retarded, edgy answer. Like, even if it's some stupid SJW trying to get you for being a conservative, that is the most stupid answer I can think of. The fact that he thinks that is some profound statement is sad. You were a full-grown man. Like, how old are you? Like, in your 40s or 50s? What is wrong with you? So that was the end of this video. And he has made no reasonable argument for why the entire right wing, or the title was kind of misleading. He meant just conservatives, for why conservatives are objectively right, or objectively better than liberals. No, that's just your opinion. At the end of the day, conservatism, or conservatism, however you're supposed to pronounce it, at the end of the day, conservatism is just an opinion. At the end of the day, liberalism is just an opinion. At the end of the day, centrism, libertarianism, and by the way, when I say libertarianism, I mean it in the general sense, not ANCAPism, whatever other opinions. They're opinions. They're political opinions that you shouldn't take super, super seriously and be a retarded ideologue. Now I keep saying retarded in this video because this is such a retarded video that I responded. This guy cannot form a cogent argument other than, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm like, oh my god. This guy takes his political opinions so seriously. So insanely seriously. And it's identity politics. That's all it is. It's identity politics. Don't be fooled in this. This is identity politics. Yes, it's not something he was born with. He wasn't born a conservative. He chose to be one. That's his opinions. But it's still identity politics. He's still grouping people based on an arbitrary identity politics. Your politics do not define who you are. They're a part of who you are, I guess. They're more interesting than an aspect of what you are. But they're still so arbitrary. They really are. As I said in the beginning of this video, I want to reiterate. Conservatives are not a monolith. Liberals are not a monolith. Everyone in between that is not a monolith. Not just in terms of personality, which he was completely wrong on, because the whole personality thing doesn't make any sense. Your personality is completely independent of your political leanings. I don't know where he got that from, and I'd really like to see what other studies or polls he was claiming to cite, which I didn't see any links for. But also, they're not a monolith in terms of their opinions. You can still be a conservative and disagree on gun rights, or be an atheist, or not be Christian, or whatever. Similar thing with being a liberal, or being whatever other political stance we happen to be talking about. Unless it's like one of the core tenets, there's room for disagreement within there. I mean, just the fact that he's grouping everybody like that, again, it's identity politics. But I'm starting to get repetitive. Again, I'd really like to see guest videos, and if you really want to talk to me, because I know there's a lot of people who've been wanting to Skype with me, and I just haven't had the time, and this would be a good time. So please talk with me about this. You can DM me on Twitter, Facebook, or here on YouTube. And I would love to set up a time. Again, I'm not 100% of my schedule, but I will try and work it out within the next week or so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.